You guys seemed to enjoy the Arizona Ranger run I did about a month or two back, so I figured why not take that cosplay and go right through Lonesome Road with it. Considering the NCR riot gear that you can get from the commissary really fits the theme, I figured why not? Let's run through the DLC today. So that's why I'm asking if you can beat Fallout New Vegas Lonesome Road as the Arizona Ranger. Starting up right where I left this character off, back in Hoover Dam before, I had to go fight the Legate, I decided that I needed to stop by and make sure that I was well stocked on ammo, mostly hollow points, before heading off towards Lonesome Road. I also decided that while I was here, I was just going to slaughter the NCR. I had no reason to further, work with them as I was going to nuke them at the end of the DLC anyways, so I figured murdering a bunch of people for free experience was a great idea before heading off towards the DLC. Nobody really put up much of a fight except for the heavy troopers because for some reason there's no real armor-piercing round for the 357. I don't know why, unless I missed something, but I didn't find any in the Arizona Ranger run, nor did I find any when I was restocking on ammo on this run. Not entirely sure what that is, but you know what, it could just be a mod conflict, making the merchant inventories kind of awkward, although I've never seen any on bodies either. By this point, I've made it to the canyon wreckage and abused a couple puppies, and it was time to head into the divide. First things first, I would need to go activate the silo so that I could, actually start progressing through the divide. So I had to go wake up Eddie so that he could help me out a little bit, which was, fantastic. Normally I don't use companions on these runs, but of course I have to take Eddie through most of the DLC, as I don't really have a choice. If I had the option to just leave him, I would, as I don't use dog meat whenever they force me to use him in Fallout 4, or use any of the companions really on any of the challenges, unless the challenge kind of revolves around using a companion. I made sure to stock up on some supplies as well as buy some riot gear, which made my character look more akin to the Arizona Ranger. At least in my personal opinion, I feel that the duster that the Ranger armor has kind of fits more with the theme here. I also made sure to steal a Ranger hat off of one of the NCR Rangers that I killed back at Hoover Dam. The sentry bots were kind of bullet sponges. It took probably between 6 to 10 bullets to take them down, unless Eddie went over and zapped them. For some reason, he does a really ridiculous amount of damage to robots. I'm not entirely sure why. I don't actually ever really use him as a companion, so I'm not sure if he just naturally does bonus damage to robots, or if that's just a Lonesome Road thing. Anyways, by this point, I had cleared out most of the sentry bots as well as all the turrets, and before, getting my legs blown off, because of course, it's a Fallout New Vegas run, I have to lose my legs somewhere. But with that out of the way, I could proceed, finally, into the divide and start taking out the marked men. Now, the marked men were neither easy nor hard for the majority of this run. I think I actually ended up one-shotting one of the named marked men as well, due to a lucky crit. So after dealing with Eddie's dialogue, I decided to head off and start actually fighting them. The first one that I found, I kind of styled on by jumping off a roof and one-shotting him, which I thought was pretty neat. Eddie started zapping one through a rock, so I started shooting him as well. Surprisingly, they didn't really put up much of a fight, except for the one that had red glare trying to noob tube me through the entire building while I was over there. I'm not sure why he thought the rocket would splash me through the ceiling, but you know what? Ignoring that, I picked up the laser detonator and fucking Oppenheimered myself, nearly giving myself blindness, because I swear to God, for some reason, the textures were brighter than the sun during this run, which was just weird. I then proceeded to kill myself with a nuclear bomb, because I wanted to stand 5 feet away from it before blowing it up. Moving on, it was time to start dealing with the tunnelers, who were probably the most terrifying thing I would deal with this run. Even with hollow points, the tunnelers were taking anywhere from 2 to 4 to sometimes even 5 to 6 shots to go down if they were some of the, more strong varieties. But after getting through that, it was, time for more dialogue. Lonesome Road might have more dialogue than Old World Blues now that I'm thinking about it, because at least in Old World Blues you can mostly skip the dialogue. Also, I made sure to one-shot a marked man outside before going and dealing with a Deathclaw. The Deathclaws were pretty spooky. I wasn't really expecting them because I keep forgetting that they're on this bridge for some reason. I don't actually really play Lonesome Road that often. Even when I do a casual playthrough, I usually play Old World Blues and go through Honest Hearts just to get the Survivalist Rifle, and then go through Dead Money to usually pick up the infinite stim packs that DLC gives you, as well as the repair kits. And then I usually forget to do Lonesome Road because I usually save it for last, and by the time I get there, I am either burnt out on the run or I get sidetracked and go do other stuff. So, moving on, I dealt with Bonesaw next, who was actually pretty terrifying for a named Marked Man. He did way more damage than I was anticipating. Also, I'm not entirely sure why he blew up there, because I didn't really have a way to make him blow up, so, we're gonna move on and not question the physics of Fallout New Vegas. I then committed a war crime by launching a nuclear missile right above myself. Not entirely sure why I don't just take a metric shit ton of radiation right here, as the missile's probably not even a mile or two away from me, and I'm pretty sure the blast wave would at least send out some sort of radiation, although I'm not a nuclear physicist, so I don't know anything about that. If there's any nuclear physicists watching this, please correct me in the comments below, because I would actually love to know why I don't take massive amounts of radiation or just fucking die right there. Back to my least favorite part of the DLC, riding this little elevator down the tunnel into the silo. I absolutely hate this place because it's pretty much just seizure simulator with how much screen shake there is. I need to actually look if there's a mod to just disable that, because it actually hurts my head every time I have to go down that elevator. For some reason, there's also screen shake in the silo, which was great. Moving on, I had to deal with some sentry bots, which weren't all that bad because Eddie is ridiculously overpowered against robots. He killed that one in 2 seconds. I ran into this wall and glitched myself onto the map. I wasn't actually paying attention when I was walking out that door. I think I looked at a text on my phone or something, and next thing I know, I looked up because I heard my character fall and I was under the map. I eventually just had to use the TCL command to, get myself out of that, because my last save was from the beginning of the DLC and I wasn't redoing 45 minutes worth of content just to get right back to that spot because of a glitch. So we're going to ignore that. We're going to ignore that I used the console command to cheat my way out of that, and we're going to move on. Dealing with more tunnelers, of course, I'm really thankful that I stocked up on hollow point rounds before coming to this DLC. I did so, just because of the tunnelers, because they're such a pain in the ass, and I got lost for a few minutes before Eddie bothered me with more dialogue. I did mostly skip his dialogue in this DLC. Normally I don't whenever I actually play the game, because I actually really like Eddie's story, and I actually really like Lonesome Road's story, but for the sake of not wanting to sit through 30 minutes of unnecessary dialogue just for a challenge run, which I would be cutting out anyways because you guys don't want to sit through 30 minutes of unnecessary dialogue for a video, it doesn't really matter to me. At this point, I was just kind of on autopilot, killing all the marked men that were in my way so that I could finish the DLC. Lonesome Road is pretty heavy on the gunplay. There's not a whole lot of really side content or anything to do, so it's a pretty straightforward video whenever I do Lonesome Road. It's probably one of the most linear Fallout DLCs, considering it's just point A to point B, realistically. I mean, there's side content to do after the DLC, with the nukes and stuff, but during the DLC, there's really not a whole lot you can do. But anyways, moving on, Eddie zapped the shit out of me, which was very uncomfortable, and I was highly offended. I got lost again for a few minutes wandering around before starting to shoot at some deathclaws. It's kind of a shame that I didn't go off and try to take on Rar, but I didn't really remember him being a thing until after the DLC. But anyways, after that, I was getting bullied by some marked men, one of which had a flare gun, which was painfully annoying to deal with because it kept lighting up my screen every time he hit me. I also had to go deal with a couple invisible marked men, including Blade, who was actually kind of terrifying until I got a really lucky crit that pretty much killed him instantaneously. Thank God for crit builds in this game. I made sure to fight off the sentry bots so that I could of course save Eddie, because he's a little homie and he doesn't deserve to live the rest of his life locked in a tube, and believe it or not, I have to do some nice things once in a while, even if I don't really want to. Eddie is pretty annoying with the dialogue in the DLC, but you know what, he's a little lad and he's helped me through the entire thing, being an absolute menace to robots, so I helped him. Had him shock a commissary terminal so that I could buy some supplies as well as repair my armor before moving on, took a copious amount of drugs before dealing with Ulysses, who was an absolute pushover by the way. I killed him in one sneak crit and then had to deal with a whole bunch of marked men. The marked men in this section, normally I fight with Ulysses because that's my preferred way to deal with Lonesome Road at the end, is, the power of friendship. But, considering I just murdered him, it's up to me and Eddie. But, with the marked men finally out of the way, I could pick where the nukes go. I chose to send them at both the NCR and the Legion because I wanted to induce maximum carnage, ran up to loot Ulysses' body because I wanted his shit, it was mine now, and proved that yes, you can beat Lonesome Road as the Arizona Ranger. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. If you have any suggestions, please leave them in the comments below. I love when you guys give me video ideas, and it's very helpful to me because it adds more stuff to my list so that I know what to do next. Thank you guys so much for the support lately. We are almost at a full whopping 1,000 subs, which is absolutely crazy to me. So I'm going to start probably working on that special soon. I hope you guys are going to enjoy that one because I know it's going to be a pain in the ass to record. But as always, thank you guys so much, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.